Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Scott Wurzbacher. And if you've ever experienced limiting beliefs that have kept you from pursuing that great adventure, then today's episode is the medicine you need. Our guests are Alfredo Aliaga, his daughter Anabel Aliaga-Buchenau, and Julian Coiner, who just recently returned from a quest to set a new world record that would make Alfredo, at age 92, the oldest person to hike the Grand Canyon from rim to rim. Their hike, which took place in October, covered 24 miles in 21 hours. No more excuses, folks. Alfredo and his team achieved their goal, reminding the rest of us that it's never too late to go after your dreams. Now, to introduce our guests, we have Alfredo, who was born in Spain and spent most of his life living and raising his two children in Berlin, where he still lives today. He's no stranger to adventure, and the Grand Canyon is just one of many. Anabel, his daughter, was born in Germany, but now calls Charlotte, North Carolina home, where she's a PhD and educator at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. She now raises two adventurous kids of her own. And Julian Coiner, the glue that brought us all together today. Julian and I immediately connected as he too is a real estate professional / adventurer. Julian has learned to couple his passions by selling real estate in both the Zion area of Utah and the beautiful island of Kauai in Hawaii. Julian has hiked the Grand Canyon rim to rim countless times, making him the perfect person to join this expedition. Get ready to be inspired, friends. Alfredo, Anabel, and Julian, welcome to the campfire.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank you very much.
This is such an awesome story. You guys have gotten media coverage. It's an incredible story. And Julian, I want to start with you being the glue that brought us together. Can you just give us an overview of what just happened?
You know, it's just amazing. Alfredo is the most inspiring person I know on this planet, along with my wife's former, or her grandmother who just passed away at 98 and a half. And, you know, this all came together. Those guys were already doing it. I was an outsider. I'm nobody. I was, you know, I'm on the Facebook group Rim to Rim Club, and a friend of mine saw their story and immediately tagged me and said, hey, these guys need some witnesses to go to make sure that they can prove that this 92-year-old went rim to rim in 2 days. And I'm going, 92? I've hiked people across the Grand Canyon that are like 20, 25. They can't even halfway down. They're complaining and everything else. So he sent it to me, and I immediately told him, hey, I'm doing a half Ironman in Tempe, Arizona at the same time. There's no way I can do it. So I kind of just put it away for a couple days, and I said, you know what? I've got to go. There's no way I can't go. You know, that was my 50th time going across. So I have much experience. And I said, 92-year-old, Mindy's grandmother was 98 and a half. He's gonna need a voice of fun to get him across this Grand Canyon. And actually, you know, I know you're just starting this, but my favorite part of this whole trip was when Anabel kept asking him, do this. And, you know, Alfredo really, he'd listen, but not really. But we sat down halfway down the canyon, and Anabel says, do this. And I said, no, do this, Alfredo. And he goes, okay. He goes, when Julian says it, I do it. And it was the cutest, most amazing thing. But he is amazing. I mean, this is all about him. We're just participants that were lucky enough and blessed enough to be with him on his journey going across the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. And so, Julian, I think I heard you say you've done rim to rim now 50 times.
51. I just did it a few weeks ago with my son, 51 times. It was 50th with him. And you know what? I was going to do it in May, and that was going to be my 50th with a lot of friends. But I said, there's no way. It's got to be with a 92-year-old who is going to rock across the canyon. What a way for me to celebrate my 50th. But for him, 1,000 times more important than anything, me hiking across a few extra times.
That's amazing, though. That's a milestone too. Be able to do this special hike as your 50th. Very, very cool.
With him.
Anabel, before we get to the main character here, can you share a little bit about some of the stats? You know, we talked about this is 24 miles, 21 hours. Tell us a little bit about this journey that you guys took.
Okay. So the Grand Canyon has a north rim and a south rim, and you can start on either rim for a rim to rim. That's okay. But we decided we would leave from the north rim, and it's higher than the south rim. So it's very, very steep, and it's a very long way down. And so you go down, you hit the various layers. You hit Supai Tunnel, then the Red Wall Bridge, then eventually you get into the box, which is famous for being heating up, and then you hit Phantom Ranch, which is at the bottom. And then you're very happy because you're halfway through and you get food and so on. And then you cross the Colorado River and go up, and more up. And my favorite place called the Devil's Corkscrew. I just love that name. So it really does go like this. And then you get to Havasupai Gardens, and then you're almost to the top. It's about halfway, and you get that one.
Not almost there.
No, but I mean, it's still a big piece. And then you get to the South Rim, and it's an easier way to go that way because at the South Rim there's just more infrastructure when you arrive. So that's why we chose to do it in that way. And we've done it before in halfway down, all the way down, halfway up, all the way up. So in 4 days, which is much more leisurely, and you just spend so much more time enjoying it and looking at everything and doing little side trips. But this time it was all about, we got to get from rim to rim.
Well, this story is very near and dear to my heart, as I just had the opportunity to hike down, did not do rim to rim, but from the south rim down to the bottom and then back up with a group of people. And, so the group that I've been with, we've been cherishing the time that we had back in April. And when we saw your story and then I connected with Julian, it was like, it felt like this real serendipity that we're even on this call right now. So it's an honor to be able to speak with you. Alfredo, where did this idea come from?
I begin with when I was a young man, and then I go further. When I was a young man, let's say 12 till 15, I have been in Spain living. I have been a few times in the near mountains, the Pyrenees, what is 200 kilometers away from my home. Then I have done hikes, not really climbing. And I have make a big long hikes like the Central Pyrenees in one time, and all the peaks more than 3,000 meter high, we made it about 1 month. That was the first time I was long time in the mountains, and so I very early began to love hiking and mountain. That was a very difficult time in Spain because we have always only hunger, very time of poverty. But we could get some money from the government, and so we could go to the mountains and make things like that. And the second part of my life was I emigrated to Germany when I was 23 or 24. And in Germany, the things changed a lot. I have job, I have security, family, children, and I went to the university and I could make my geology. And that was a time where I live healthy, but not extremely. But I make a lot of hikes, bicycle with bike, let's say 3,000 kilometers with 10 at the bike with my wife, Ingrid. But the change of all the things happened in 2006 when my wife of Ella, amyotrophy, diet, and I have 2 years taking care of her. So I was at the end of my life, really. All the muscles were on, and always in the room in my house in Germany. And when then in this time I began to visit all the places I have been with the hair, and I when she died, all the Marnas have bring to the place crane of paper.
Paper crane, origami crane.
Yeah, yes. And
Origami, yeah.
I have put everywhere in the world, in Nepal, and the base camp of Everest, and the base camp, the two base camp of Kanchenjunga, and we have been together with my wife 1 year in USA with a camper. We bought a camper. 1 year, retired. 1 year. And we visit only national parks. Because I have the Golden Eagle, a card of
Yes, a
of
lifetime pass to the national park. Yes.
Sirikahawa National Park gave me this thing. I still have a use for this adventure of rim to rim as older on foot, and so always my life is connected to hike and mountains, and it is also a little of my geology. And the Grand Canyon is the central part of all these things. Not South Africa, not Australia, not this is the because as a geologist I see the Grand Canyon as a book which is open. You can learn the Alps, the Pyrenees, but you see almost nothing. You see only letters in a book, but in the Grand Canyon you see the things. You see not a book, you see the things of the nature.
Hey everyone, it's Scott here. Did you know that the members of my real estate team, W Realty Group, are listening to their own voices that call to adventure by setting big goals? Some of those goals include planning trips to Bali and the Kingdom of Bhutan, buying investment homes, and running the Chicago Marathon. At W Realty Group, we support and encourage these big goals and want to help turn them into reality. We're currently looking to add new members to the team. If you know a great real estate agent in the Charlotte, North Carolina area that would benefit from being part of our team, please send a text, an email, or give me a call. And know that when you support W Realty Group, you're also supporting this podcast. Thanks for listening. Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I think you're so right about the Grand Canyon. And I'm feeling like inspired to pivot just a minute, because like when I did the Grand Canyon hike with the 4 people that I went with, we just felt this incredible metaphor of the Grand Canyon being this like biggest hole on earth, right? Like the biggest canyon. And so there's this metaphorical, like when you're at the top, you know, you're kind of on the outside, but as you descend down into the canyon, it's almost like you go into the depths of your soul, right? And you find out so much about yourself, and then when you come back out, you're a new person. I'm curious, like, each of you, if you could maybe speak to, like, how did going down into the depth, and I know you've been there, this wasn't the first time, but, like, what is that experience like for you to go down into those depths? Externally and internally, what does it feel like on the inside?
I went to the Grand Canyon the first time in 2006 when my mom died. She had just died of ALS, and my dad said, "We're going to the Grand Canyon." And I'm like, "If he's grieving, whatever he wants, we're doing." And so we took my 9-year-old and my 76-year-old dad, and all we did was hike South Rim, Havasupai Gardens, camped, and went back up. In the meantime, there was a huge thunderstorm, and there was a flash flood, and he almost died. And Della, our friend, the ranger, who's now retired, but who helped us with this trip, basically saved his life by saying, "Come on, sir, move. You're going to get flushed away." But he didn't. And so he's alive. Um, but since that day, I've said that everybody should go into the Grand Canyon, even if it's just a few steps, because it changes who you are, it changes your perspective, it puts everything in perspective, all the problems, everything in life, because down there you're this small
Yeah.
and nature is so big and so powerful, and it makes everything in normal life possible because you know it's so overwhelming to be able to experience that beauty and experience that adventure and survive. I mean, even if you're not in mortal danger all the time, it does feel like that. You are really in a world that's not the streets of Charlotte. It's just such a changing. It really changes you, and
Yeah.
so everybody should do it
Yeah. Do you feel like you came out a different person?
every time. You said in my introduction that I'm the chair of my department, and that's a leadership role. It's a lot of responsibility, and I've been in the business for a long time, so I know what it means. And I was really nervous about even applying, or even like stepping up and saying, "Okay, I'll do this." And it is actually, Julian, you'll appreciate this, just before the Devil's Corkscrew, after having been in the canyon for 3 days. I thought I really literally had this thought, if I can do this, of course I can be chair. What am I kidding myself, And I actually, and Alfredo's my witness, this is in October 22. I said to him and my brother and my husband who were there, "Hey guys, you know what? I've decided I will apply." And so here I am. And these days, when things are rough or when I think, good grief, I can't even go do one more day, I think, come on, you know, yeah, of
Love it.
course you can. Of course you can. This is
Love
nothing.
it.
It's not a life and death thing. This is just life, like normal.
Of course I can. Julian, descending into the Grand Canyon 50 times. What is that inner experience?
Yeah, like it kind of all started for me, but actually, I'd say after the 20th time or whatever, it kind of shifted. You introduced me as a real estate agent adventurer. I'm actually an adventurer who uses real estate to go and
Yeah.
do the things that I love. And, I live over by Zion National Park. And, we go back and forth between Kauai and here, but we spend most of our time here. We're 2.5 hours from the North Rim. I fill my heart by inspiring others to go across the Grand Canyon. There are people that have said, "There's no way I can do it." I said, "Do you want to do it?" And they said yes. And actually, the time before Alfredo, I took my friend's wife who just finished chemo therapy, and we had oxygen. And hey, I don't do commercial guiding across there. I do it to fill my heart. And when I see that I might be of use to others going across, um, just seeing, when you go to either the North or the South Rim and you look across, it's almost like parachuting. The first time you look at it, you think, "Oh, okay." But then that morning or the day before you go, you look across, you're like, "How can I do this?" And, you really have to prepare people and get their mind straight because, the physical is hard enough, but the mental is really where it's at. Like I always tell everybody, the hike doesn't start until the last 5 miles at Manzanita going up the north, or at Supai Gardens going up the south. And that's about 5 miles on each side. That's really where the hike starts because you're exhausted. And then now you got elevation, and you really got to have a little fun. And, I always am saying, oh, just around the corner, or the Coiner, I say, and they're like, wait a second, you told me the bridge was here. You told me it's here. So a little bit of psychology and
Yes.
trying to, just keep them pushing. I have things called turtling and rabbiting. So when people are kind of dragging a little bit, I might go a little bit ahead. So they see me, but they feel like, oh, I got to keep up with Julian. And then there's other times where I know they're totally spent, but they're trying to go too quick. And I know what's ahead and how much rest they're going to need. And I turtle. I sit back and I slow down. I fake injuries sometimes. Oh, when they say they don't want to stop, but I can tell oh gosh, I've got a cramp. I need to stop. And people come out of the canyon and tell my wife, oh, Julian was really injured. And she just laughs and goes, nah,
No.
he was
I
turtling.
love it. So
And those are my terms. I'm not sure if
you're
those
like
are
the
real terms or
cheerleader.
not.
You're the cheerleader, really. It's funny because, you have a role here to be a witness for this world record. But what I heard you say was that being a witness inside the Grand Canyon fills your heart.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Every time I cross the Grand Canyon with anybody, or even along the way. I mean, when Alfredo was going across the canyon, he inspired hundreds of people just by them. They all heard about it. They all wanted to take photos with him. They were inspired. I mean, they were like, my gosh. And I bet there was some that were really exhausted and feeling like, oh, I don't know if I could take another step. He came by and it put a jump in their step.
Yeah. Alfredo, let's go to you. This is an extremely taxing physical adventure, and there's a lot of ways to accomplish that, but this one's unique because you're going down into the bottom of this canyon. And I just wonder what that means to you, and what is that inner experience like for you to descend into the canyon and then come back out?
I think it is very difficult and very easy to answer this question, because this is a unique situation in our life, to go down and see the wonder of the nature and be so quite near. You are part of these vertical walls and the trails, and that is maybe you are more human, more than you are really.
Superhero. You're a superhero.
Hero, yes, a little hero, but the really is you are doing something special, which is important for you, I think. And the consequence of this meaning is if I do it, I can maybe motivate other people to do the same thing. Why not?
Okay, so we're still waiting from Guinness to find out whether this has been approved, but you will be the oldest person to do rim to rim.
Correct.
And I'm just curious, like, how did that as a goal play into this whole thing?
Yes, the motivation, it is really, we have done with Anabel and Jürgen and my son from Berlin, we have made it a few times, just the same thing. But we never thought of making a record. We love to do it, and we did it.
Yeah.
But we read with the tablets that the other man who has made the record, who has the record, has made it, and we were very interested on this thing. We have done it already, but we have not making the preparation, the documentation, and these things. So we were interested on these things, and Julian was the Julian Buchenau was the which make it public in the Facebook internet and saying that we want to do this kind of thing with a record.
My dad read about the gentleman who held the record. Well, I should say holds the record until it's official. But we at that point had done it rim to rim in 4 days, like I told you, with my brother in 22, and he was already basically the gentleman before him had done it in 5 days, and he had a doctor with him, and he had like a huge team with him, and we're like, you've already done this, And so my husband then registered him with the Guinness Book to attempt it this past May, actually. And what my dad just said about the Facebook thing, the only reason this got public and we got Julian and Peter is because the government was threatening to shut down. And the fear was, yes, and the fear was that the Arizona governor had said she would keep the canyon open, but what if there wouldn't be any rangers? And so then the thought was, well, who's going to be our witness, like an official witness, if we don't have rangers on both ends of the backcountry office to say, yep, we saw him here, he did this. And then my husband asked for help on that Facebook group saying, is anybody leaving at that moment who could then sign that they saw him? Never in a million years did we think somebody like Julian and Peter would say, sure, we'll help with you. And that just blew up because people were so inspired by a 92-year-old doing it. And then the government didn't shut down. Hallelujah. But then by then we had a witness, 2 witnesses.
Well, so here's what's so cool about the inspiration, right? There was somebody that came before, and the bar that he set inspired y'all to go do this, right? And
Quite right.
I've already heard Julian say that when he's 93, he's going for it. So the inspiration and the competition is already on. I mean, you've already done what you've set out to accomplish, which is really beautiful. I would love to talk about fear, because so much of this podcast is about the fears that stop us from doing these things. Oh, there we go. Julian's got the fear man coming up. So, really eager to hear how fear and doubt might have influenced you, Alfredo. Anabel, I want to start with you though. Like when Dad came up with this idea, like what were you thinking?
Oh my, you're talking to the right person about fear, because I'm somebody who suffers from anxiety anyway. And so when Julian just said, when you stand at the rim and you look across, this is impossible. Even if you've done it, I don't know. Well, Julian's done it too many times, but like 3 or 4 or 5 times. No. So every time before, I have trouble sleeping. I'm so nervous. And of course, it's worse when you're going with somebody who's elderly. Because what if he falls? What if he, heart attack? What if he doesn't listen to me and only listens to Julian and doesn't take enough electrolytes, or, something like that. So it's an enormous amount of fear. And for me personally, and it's an interesting thing, because when you start walking, after about 20 minutes, your serotonin kicks in and you feel better. and it's the common thing. I mean, when you do exercise, these hormones happen, and then it gets better. The fear gets better, but that first overcoming that fear is extremely hard, and it's worth it. And every time, I swear, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to be this scared again. Why am I doing this? And then the minute we walk out, we make the next plan.
I sensed your fear when, I hadn't met them. I talked to Jürgen on the phone, but I hadn't met them until 2 days before the hike. We came and we all had dinner and stuff, but I could tell. And I mean, I felt at that point, I said, I really got to take some of this on my shoulders and say, okay, let's go. We can do this. Anabel, it's all going to be fun. We're laughing and stuff. And, gosh, it's just amazing, thinking about it, thinking back on it. I mean, why wasn't I afraid going across with a 92-year-old? And I think that plays into Mindy's grandmother at 98 and a half. We took her to the north rim of the Grand Canyon like 6 or 7 months before she passed. And, you know, you got to think the elevation. We were there 6 hours. We had dinner. She passed out 2 ambulance rides to Kanab because of the elevation. So
Wow.
I kind of knew, okay, I'm going to bring oxygen, some portable oxygen. You know, I had a lot of different things. And, you know, I was a lifeguard in Kauai 2 or 3 years. So I kind of learned some things. But I actually bought a book about anything that could happen. So I could immediately go to that and then do what I could do to help him and the family and stuff. So we're just it's just amazing that we all came together. It was a God link.
You ask who Julian was, and that's what he was. He took half of that. So I'm a person who takes responsibility for everything anyways, which is, you know, not necessarily the best trait, but it's what I do. And so I'm the one who does all the preparing and, you know, how many electrolyte tablets and how much food to carry and the first aid kit and the emergency and the whatever, you know. And so when Julian came along, it was half. He took a lot of that burden, you know, and it was just it was such a relief for me because it's not easy for me to do this either. You know, it's a physical exhausting and I mean I have to make my mind keep going and convince myself I can do this. And usually my dad keeps saying I'm so worried about him, I don't even worry about myself. And that's what makes it possible for me to do it. And I think there's a piece to that. But when Julian was there, he shouldered half of that. And when he said when I saw him, he had oxygen and, like, the things that he's you know, so it was the best thing in the world for me that he was there.
Synchronicity. You guys came together for a reason. Yeah, on the hero's journey, a supernatural aid tends to show up along the way, and it sounds like you guys all came together just like that. Alfredo, can you speak to any fear or doubt that came up for you as you were going through this adventure?
I have also fear experiences, but I think the fear limits show the limits, and I think the limits of every kind of things we do are good because the limit showed us the way till the limit, and this is what we can do. But the fear in this time during the ring to ring was that I can follow, and so I did not look to the mountains, to the strata. I look always down to the feet and the stones. Because I thought always, if I do I kind of thing, I can follow, and all these wonderful people who are with me, and the other people who were not with us, they took some firefighters. They will be all disappointed because we have not gone this ring to ring till the end. So the fear was always present, and I obliged me to look always to the feet.
He never looked afraid at all. He was the most steady person. You know, when you get up in age, really the balance is the biggest concern.
Thank you very
I
much.
did see him. His head was down, even though, you know, he is an archaeologist. He'd stop and explain the mountains, the rocks. Even though Anabel's like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, no, okay, yeah, I want to learn some more. And I'm videotaping him because I just thought it was just fascinating stuff that I can use for others as I hike them across. But I'll tell you, I've hiked probably close to 50 people across the canyon also. And he was the most steady. He never once complained. He never, I mean, his mind is the strongest I've seen out of every single person that I've hiked across, even experienced hikers, because you get exhausted. He didn't show zero, not once, nothing. He just he inspires me, and I can't wait to be 93. But I have a feeling he's coming back to push that date out on me.
He's gonna
So we'll see.
he's gonna beat himself.
Yeah, I think so.
This say a man who has made rim to rim 50 times.
That's right. Alfredo, what I heard you say was, in order to push past the fear that is natural and that you felt, you looked down at your feet to stay grounded on the earth and just kind of took things one step at a time.
That's right.
And just kept moving.
Yes. And it is because I noticed the fear that I could make something wrong and follow, and then all the things are gone.
Yeah. What kind of preparations did you have to do to get ready for this?
I have some difficulties to make a proper preparation because I have in Spain I have no mountains in near, and in Berlin I have no mountains, so the preparation was always in flat paths. And I had made about 3 months before we went to USA, 3 till 4 months, 3 hours of walking with sticks.
Every day.
Every day, about 8 miles. And I think this was give me the stamina to do this rim to rim properly as we have done it.
Alfredo, I read somewhere in some of the media stories, you have kind of a 3-step approach to life, to maintaining good health.
I think this is the most important thing for me. It was the conclusion of 3 steps in my life. The first one, it is I have to eat healthy food and drink water with it. The second step, what I have done, really, not 100%, but always trying to do it. The 30 minutes a day walking round of the corner. Of course, if you have more time, do it more. But 30 minutes, if you do each day of your life, is enough. And the third, and maybe the most important thing, is sleep in the dark of the night. Not in the dark of the night, in the night. 8 hours going all discipline to sleep. Going always the same time to bed and going out of the bed at the same time. And as I began being almost 70 years old with these things, and I am still old but happy, healthy. I have no medicine and no illness at all, and happy, and I have a lot of connection to people because they love people who are healthy and happy and gay, happy. And this is, if I had begun doing these things so late in life, that is consideration for older people. Never is too late. Begin today doing things like these 3 steps. This is the most thing I love in all these conversations.
92 years old, rim to rim, Grand Canyon, and the formula is healthy food and water, exercise 30 minutes a day, and sleep at night. Get the right hour, get the right amount of sleep. I mean, it's simple stuff, you know, but it's amazing. It's amazing. Julian and Annabelle, I mean, to me, this is such an important point here. I'm just curious if you guys have anything you want to weigh in on with that.
I've seen it. I've seen it in action, and I have to say, it's like Alfredo is teaching me and my brother and my husband, everybody, how to get old. You know, I'm 55, so I'm not at retirement age yet, but a lot of friends, and the questions are, what do you do when you're retired? And so many people, especially in America, being old is considered, almost like a bad thing. You want to look young as you possibly can. And being around him and seeing on that trail the people respond to before even this, they used to call him the legend. Like all the rangers already knew him because he was doing this all the time. And so seeing that, it's like it's a model of how one can grow old and do things. And it's not just the Grand Canyon. I mean, like I said, when my mom died, he traveled the world to all the places where they had been, and he did these like 2 months trek to around the Kanchenjunga Mountains in Nepal, or another base camp to Everest Base Camp. So it's like you don't have to sit at home and watch TV when you're old, which I hope I won't do. And honestly, his 3 pieces of advice, we're all kind of starting to follow that because it's like, if it worked for him, maybe it'll work for us. And so,
Yeah. Annabelle, what's it like for your 2 kids to witness what grandpa's going through?
oh my God, they love their opa and they're so proud of him. And in fact, my daughter has a disability. She's a little bit on the autism spectrum, and so physical activity, gross motor skills are not her strength. But you know what she wants to do in May? Go to the Grand Canyon with her
Yeah,
grandfather.
with Opa,
Yep. And
with
so
me.
she's training and she is determined. Now that he's broken this record, gonna do it. So she's
Yeah.
24, so she's not a child anymore. And then my son, he was the first grandchild, so he's been with my dad in every adventure you could possibly imagine. And so his favorite thing is to be outdoors, and he's an environmental scientist. He's getting his PhD. He does aerosols, but the minute he can, he's out in the mountains hiking. So kind of like Julian's son.
So I want to, as we kind of come towards the end of our time together, I want to talk about limits. And Julian, I want to ask you to start on this one. But I think so much of this, like just being on this call with you guys, sharing the story with listeners, I think I'm inspired. I hope that listeners are inspired to see that we don't have to let limits limit us, right? And I think some of it is, for me, the first step is sometimes we don't even recognize that we have limits. Sometimes we don't even know that they're there. And so, Julian, you've done this, you've rimmed the rim 50 times, you've seen a lot of people accomplish this. Like, I'm just curious if you have any thoughts for listeners on like how to first of all become aware of your limits and then push past them.
Yeah, well, I think what you're saying, hey, to be inspired to do this and to see a 92-year-old soon to set the world record, there are limits in the sense of, you have to train for this hike. We had, I think, 10 this year that passed away in the canyon, a lot younger than Alfredo. So this is a serious hike. You've got to train. But it all starts with that inspiration. It's like doing triathlon. You have your race and you back out to wherever you are that day, what you need to do to accomplish that goal of getting across the Grand Canyon. So for me, be inspired. Let others inspire you, and don't feel that you can't figure it out yourself. There's plenty of people in the world that if you get on somebody's Facebook live thing or Facebook Rim to Rim Club, that will give you ideas and thoughts to make sure that you're successful in that.
We've gone many times. One time we went with a friend, and it was in August, and we left at 2 in the morning on the South Rim to get to Phantom by about 10. And we were slower than normal. And by the time it was 4 in the morning, it was already 100 degrees in the dark. And we're above the 3 Mile Rest House. And we turned around. So knowing your limits is a good thing. And when we got up, I went and notified the people that, they should tell Phantom Ranch that we weren't coming, and notified the shuttle that we wouldn't be taking the shuttle. And they said, that's the smartest decision. You don't know how many people should have called it and turned around, and then it ended in, a negative outcome. So I think fear is our greatest enemy, and overcoming fear, but boy, do it smartly. And like Julian said, plan and know, of course, your limits. The canyon is the canyon. And if you don't do electrolytes and if you don't do the right things, it's gonna get you. So
Your
Yes.
training will show you your limits.
Yeah, and what I just heard you say, Annabelle, is the fear is your worst enemy, but it also plays a role. Like it does, it is a sign that says, hey, this is a limit that you should pay attention to. And I think some of it is like discerning between limiting beliefs that hold us back from really going after what we want, and then those things that are like legit, hey, like this is a true warning. I wonder if we could finish, Alfredo, with your thoughts on limits and pushing past those things. You've just accomplished something extraordinary at age 92, and I just wonder what advice you have for people that might feel some limiting beliefs that are stopping them from doing the things they really want to do.
Okay, limits are good because they show us where the limits are. But they show us more. And this is that the way till the limits are free for us to do the things. Okay, and if you allow me, I would like to say thanks, not only to you, but to the trails. The trails, they are the things that allow us to look at the Grand Canyon not only from the rim, we go down. The trails have the first time they were the ancient people of America who went down and they, to the Indian Garden and to the Fenton Range. They have lived there because there was the water and it was a desert. And they use the geological falls debris. These vertical walls, they are broken with the geological falls, and the debris make the best thing to put trails on these paths, on these places. Then my thank is to these people, ancient people. Then the second thanks are the people who make these trails. And the third thank you very much are for the people who are working and maintaining the trails.
Thank you. I think we need to add a fourth. We've got diet, food and water, right? We've got exercise, we've got sleep. I just heard gratitude.
yeah,
100%.
Wonderful. I learned this.
If people want to find out more about you guys and your adventure, what's the best way for them to do that?
there's a story on USA. I would just Google his name. It's all over. You can do the USA Today has a long, really good report. They did a long interview with us, and then Fox did a really long interview. There's Fox Live on TV, and then also published. The Backpacker. It's all over. You just Google his name, and you find his story everywhere.
So congratulations on this incredible achievement. I'm so thankful that you guys spent some time with me. Before we wrap up, this is such an amazing story. We know that Hollywood is going to pick up on this story at some point. And when they do, I want to know who's going to be the cast of the characters, who are going to be the Hollywood actors that are going to play y'all in this movie about this epic new world record.
I would like to have a man who is called Anthony Quinn, because he made a film, Alexis Sorbas, and he has an American friend who is working with him, but he is a poor miner, and he goes in the mine and to take something of the mine, but it is a big explosion, and the smoke and the stones flow out of the door of the mine, and the American companion said, Alexis, no, Alexis, yeah, okay. And he came all that and said, what do you want? ¿Qué? What do you want? That was for me.
I love it. Okay, we got Anthony Quinn as Alfredo. Annabelle, who's playing you?
Well, I don't know, but I want to give the name to the movie. Can I give the name to the movie? Because I would call it not The Old Man and the Sea like Hemingway. It's The Old Man and the Canyon.
Oh, The Old Man in the Canyon. Okay.
Oh,
All right. But I gotta
okay.
have an actress for you, Annabelle. You're in this movie.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. Awesome. Julian, bring it home. Who's playing you in this movie?
Well, hopefully it's me. I'd love to play myself.
That's
If
okay.
they're gonna
I'm good
make it
with that.
shortly, I could be that. But if they have to go to a character, how about Miles Teller from Top Gun
Nice.
Maverick?
He's great. I like him a lot.
But my name of the movie is 107 Switchbacks. Ha, ha,
Oh,
ha.
107 Switchbacks. I love it. Oh my God. It's going to be an Oscar winner. I'm sure of it. You guys, thank you so much. For those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. I hope Alfredo, Annabelle, and Julian's story has encouraged you to listen to the voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thank you for listening. Julian, Alfredo, Annabelle, thank you so much for being here.
Commander, with one thing, it's what I do in my hiking show in Kauai. Take a hike.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, guys.
Scott. This has been great.
Thank you very much.